everyone, my name is Nicol David and I'm a former World Squash Champion and AIA Ambassador for Malaysia. I'm excited to be joining all of you on today's AIA Live event and hope everyone have been having lots of fun so far on this virtual event. Today, I want to share with you a little about my story to mainly focus on the mental aspect and share some tips of how to train your mind like a pro. But before we get there, I thought I'll share a little about myself, and I'm going to use my iPad to show some photos so you guys can have a good idea about my past. I was born in Penang in 1983. It's one of the northern states of Malaysia. I'm the youngest of 3 girls in the family. My dad, Desmond, was a civil engineer, but he was a sports person himself. My mom, Anne-Marie, was an English teacher in a Chinese boys' school. Both my parents were instrumental to encourage my sisters and I to play sport, and squash was the first sport we picked up. I started playing squash with my sisters when I was 5 years old at the first public squash center in Penang. I can still remember the first day I stepped on court. I just loved every moment of it, and I fell in love with squash from then on. I was dreaming about squash. I would wait for my school day to be over to play squash, and I just played and played and played squash every day, and I got better and better at it. I was selected to join the national team at 11 years old. I started getting better nationally and internationally, and that eventually the results came. After winning my first World Junior title, I had my mind set to be world number 1 and being a world champion in the seniors one day. When I was 17 years old, straight after high school, I went out and played the Pro Tour. I had a year on tour, but I noticed I needed to do more to break through against the top players. So a year later, I decided to leave Malaysia and move to Amsterdam to work with my coach, Liz Irving, to train with the best and show me what it takes to compete with the top women on tour. She's got so much experience, and she opened my mind to a whole different perspective of squash. She told me the first thing when I started training with her was that it would take a lot of time and a lot of patience to make these changes, but I was willing to commit to it. Without missing a day of training, I kept to it and had many tough moments in the process. But I got through those obstacles and came out reaching to my goal eventually by becoming world champion and world number 1 at age 22. Also from then on, I went on to win 8 world titles and sustain the world number 1 spot for 9 years consecutively, and it's a record in squash history. Never in my wildest dreams would I have imagined achieving this in my entire life. The thing that fascinates most people is that they always ask this question: how did I do it? What made you keep on going? So how to train your mind like a pro? Through my experience, I learned that these key pointers that was important in the way I approach my squash and my life is the crucial things to do to keep a good mindset. The first thing is to make realistic goals. The problem for most people that face is that things get so huge, the goals get so huge, and we want it straight away. For instance, someone wants to be a multi-million dollar startup and they want to be famous today and tomorrow. But in reality, it doesn't work. When I started with this, the first thing she asked me was, "What is your goal? What do you want for your squash?" So I told her, "I want to be world number 1. I want to be world champion." Then she said, "Right. It's going to take 7 years to get there." And I was thinking, I came all this way to hear this? But then she told me, the reason why it takes so long is that you need to make changes in your game, improving your technique to have more variety, be ready with better tactics, working on the movement to be more efficient, and getting stronger physically, and a whole lot more. All these made sense at the time. But she said, we're gonna have a plan to make this happen. If you make those small goals, you'll reach the bigger goal at the end of the day. So I kept to it and I stuck to her advice. So my advice to all of you is, make small goals to reach the bigger goal. At the end of the day, you have to have a plan and stick to it. If you don't stick to it, it becomes overwhelming, and then you have to trust the process as you go along. The next thing is to learn about how you want to turn around the negatives into the positives. It's easier said than done. Especially people around you, we are always surrounded by so much negativity. People complaining, people are not satisfied, competition becomes a threat, and that's when everyone just takes negativity wrongly. When I was growing up, I was compared to a lot of people because I was too small, and maybe they told me that you never make it in squash. If I were to listen to all of them, I wouldn't have gone far in my squash career. So what I did is I turned that around and made it an opportunity for me to get better. And I used that to push myself to get stronger and better along the way. The next thing is I also had a lot of pressure when I was at the top in my squash career. During that high pressure situations, I had my sports psychologist that I worked with that helped me to minimize all the negativity so that when I go into the squash court and with my training, I can stay on focus and stay on the game. To be honest, it is so much harder to train the mind to be positive than even doing 400-meter sprints. However, our mind is so powerful that it adapts very well. If we start making this a habit in our daily lives and start training ourselves to work harder to turn things, the negative to a positive, it will become easier and it becomes a habit to approach your life. So these are the two key takeaways that I want to share with you. Number 1, set small goals to reach a bigger goal, and also have a plan towards them. Number 2, train your mind to turn the negatives into positives. And also, I would like to share one last thing that I like to do when I want to help my mind to think about the future and also thinking of a good positive energy to keep me going. That is visualization. I used to visualize a lot when I was 11 years old, seeing myself being a world champion. But a lot of people always ask me, how do you visualize? So I started visualizing myself doing the small steps, like how am I going to hit the ball? How's my position? How do I look like with my position, my stance? And looking confident on court. That was how I visualized myself winning and going out there, being at the top of my game. And the more you do that, the more it becomes like instant thing in your mind that it just plays automatically. And before you know it, you're actually working towards that. So I started practicing that when I was 11, 12 years old, and I did that all throughout my career because I saw that it really helped me in the process of being a better squash player. And so I took that on, and I don't think many players actually had that opportunity to learn visualization, but I advise all of you, if you can think of something that is positive or what you want to do in your life, visualize it and keep that really clear in your mind. How are you going to look like if you want to be a top chef? How are you going to dress up like and being at the top of your game, cooking the best meals for your customers? Those things are the small steps to take to visualize yourself in that process, and eventually your mind will take you towards it. So these are just a few pointers that I want to share with all of you that you can actually practice in your daily lives. I hope I helped you in some ways that you can actually take this on and practice it every day. Something that you make it a habit in your daily lives. I hope you had a lot of fun today. I know I did. I'm so happy that I could share with you my little story and also a few pointers of how to train your mind like a pro. So take care, everyone. Let's live a healthier, longer and better life together. Take care. Bye.